Hey guys, I'm Rain Younger, and this is this very special edition of Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. And with me today, I have a very special guest of the new documentary on PBS called Space: The Longest Goodbye. We have director Ido Mizrahy and former astronaut and subject in the film, Cady Coleman. Hey guys, how's it going?
It's great. Thanks.
Doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. Thank you. It's such a great film, an important film. Ido, let's start with you. How did the project originally come about?
We, a producer in my last documentary kind of had this vision that she wanted to do something about the mission to Mars. And so we started taking these trips to various NASA centers, which were really kind of amazing, but we were really kind of shooting in all directions. Like we met flight directors, we met engineers, but it's a huge canvas. We had zero idea what the movie should be about. And then we met Dr. Al Holland, who's one of the subjects in the documentary, who's a psychologist working for Johnson Space Center. And Al's job and his team's job is to keep kind of maintain astronauts' mental stability in space, right? To kind of look into the psychological implications of long duration space missions, and starting with the space station and then soon by going back to the moon and then eventually Mars. These are fairly new considerations, right? These are not short trips anymore. And so what it means to be that far away from Earth is suddenly on their minds, and it's an important thing to consider.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I just want to thank you for just for bringing this topic to life of isolation through space flight. It's a very lonely world, Cady. I know you can attest to that. But yeah, really really powerful film, and I'm really happy to hear the origin story of its inception. Cady, what was the gravitational force that pulled you into
That force was Ito Mizrahi.
the
And actually, but I think sometimes things just happen for a reason. And I think you and Peggy Wu were working together on virtual reality, and she's someone that I had worked with, in different contexts of Mars conferences and thinking about how we could use virtual reality in space and even just in practical ways in space flight. And I think that she gave my name.
That's awesome. Really, and I'm so happy that they got you for this because you really provided such great insight into space flight and just not just the physical, but more the psychological effects that this adventure has on many of you guys at NASA. So great, kudos on your input there.
No, I
Uh,
was gonna
Ito,
say that
yeah,
that couple of people have, now that the film has been, around and about a little bit, they say to me, but you just always seem to be having such a good time up there. And you smile all the time, right? And I do, and I was, right? But I was like, but that same person, it doesn't mean it's not easy. That this is part of
right.
it, being a human that, and you said lonely. I don't know that I felt lonely, but you certainly miss, you miss being part of the life of the, interacting with the people that you love. And so I just think that it's great to humanize spaceflight itself.
Well put. I couldn't have said it better myself. And playing the flute in space. So there you go, even better. Ito, I'm sure the research process was pretty intense for this. Talk a little bit about that. What was it like? You compiling all the data, talking with all the subjects like Cady. What was that process like for you?
Definitely long. I mean, making documentaries is a really long process. And I think much like maybe like getting ready to go to space, there's a big team involved, there's a lot of strategy, or well, a sort of big-ish team. It's still a small documentary, but there's a big collaborative effort where a number of people are out there talking to potential subjects. My collaborators trying to pull as many pieces of footage as possible. You also find there's the kind of regular archives, and then there's all these like treasure troves that like will slowly open up to you as you meet people, right? And I think definitely the kind of game-changing one for us was once I met Cady. Not only was it clear that she had to be, if she agreed to be, the main subject of the documentary, one of the main subjects, but also um, all the video conferences that she had with her family when she was on the space station. So at some point, and this took a while. At that point, we had known each other a while, and I think we had already filmed you a couple of times, and Cady decided it was time to share these video conferences with me. And this is 6 months worth of calls that she did with her family while she was on the space station. And I mean, it was just some of the most moving stuff I've ever seen. I mean, imagine sitting down. You know what it's like when like the iPhone like jumps at you and says like, "Remember this from a year ago?" Like now, imagine sitting down and watching, 6 months, and you just start tearing right away. And now it's 6 months of it. Now it's not my family, but it sure did feel like my family. And I think because the movie, yes, it's about space missions, but it's actually, and the reason I fell in love with this story and this angle is because, like you said, it's about loneliness. It's about togetherness. It's about this friction that we will always feel between where we're going and where we're coming from. And I think here is sort of encapsulated in the space mission challenge, and then specifically in Cady's family story, this family that's sort of together with Cady is part of this mission was mind blowing. I think I sort of answered your question, but
No, that was pretty good. That was good. Was NASA very cooperative with you in revealing their files? Did they have like a vault of like really cool stuff that was never been seen? Was that unearthed through you for you?
it was yeah. So first of all, NASA was cooperative, but they're it's a pretty serious place. Like we had to jump through many hoops to get the official approval. So there was a lot of back and forth at the beginning. By the way, PBS coming on board pretty early on really helped. I mean, I think up until that point, they were like, okay, we like the treatment, we think it's a good story. But then once PBS came on board, they said, okay, now we know the American taxpayer is getting their money's worth. They're going to be able to see it. Everybody's going to be able to see it. I think that was really important for NASA. As far as in the special vault, it's similar in other projects too. There's the archives, and by the way, much of it is public domain. Many people could access those archives. Many people could use them in various ways. But then there are other doors that you kind of come upon as you start interviewing people, and you find that there are other vaults, and not because they're hiding it for you, but because it's a massive agency that has so many different units working on so many different things. And so it took a while to get to some of those more or lesser seen pieces of footage that ended up in the movie.
Even for us, actually,
Awesome.
I said to Ito, I go, Ito, if you found that footage, could you share it with me? Because, there's all sorts of just plain old, like life gets in the way when someone asks you for footage from summer camp 20 years ago or whatever. It depends what medium it was on. And it's the same with the agency, how much of that is put into a medium that is easily accessible. And they'll give me any video I want as long as I give them the in and the out point and the day, not that it was taken, but that it was shipped down from space, right? So it's hard to find stuff.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Dylan Mathis, right, who has been
Oh,
incredible, and he's someone at Johnson Space Center who is in charge of all video going in and out of the space station, really, and
Okay.
helped us so much. Yeah.
yeah, and he was
Nice.
really he was really the one who was able to kind of unleash some pretty amazing stuff in this movie.
I think of him as the Wizard
Awesome.
of Oz. And if you met him, you would too.
Yeah. I love it. The Wizard of Space. Maybe that's a sequel
Or
documentary.
space film,
Um,
space footage.
yeah. So what I love about this film, so a lot of documentaries about NASA and space travel and all that, or they deal mostly with the science of it all. But what you guys did was focus on the human side, Cady. And I know that there are so many challenges that you guys must face when you're up there. Aside from the isolation, what are some other big challenges that you have faced in your career in space travel?
The amount of great work to be done that there just aren't enough minutes in the day. It's
Mm,
really, really busy up there, partly because it's so clear when you're up there how important the work is, and that if you don't enable this data point for this experiment right now today, it might not get done for another month or two or ever. And so
mm,
getting enough stuff done. And also, I think we each bring our own kind of missions up there too, footage that we think would fascinate somebody, or what we want to make for our kids, or how to
mm.
share the environment in our own way that isn't necessarily an official way. And most people I know get, about 25% of that kind of stuff done while they're up there. And I felt the
Okay,
same pressure.
gotcha. And now on the same token, so that's a challenge. What was the most fun you had in space? What was the most fun activity you ever engaged in space?
Flying everywhere. Ito's giving me a look. But it is, partly because he probably knows I'm not that coordinated down here, but it is so delightful and just delicious I mean, it's not about like Superman and like this, it's just the touch of a finger. Actually,
Mm.
there's a little video I made for or the web that you just take one hair and you push it against, say, your microphone, just like if you do it fast, you'll break it. But if you push slowly, it's enough to push you across the whole space station until you run into something
Wow.
else. And so it takes no force to move, and it just means it's like this whole new life unfolds, this whole new way of playing games, of relating to people. But at the same time, I'd say that it's I don't know, because it's so special and so different, it reminds you that you're like in this very special place, one of just a couple people that is representing everybody back
Right.
home, and that you're sort of one of those pioneers.
Very cool. So obviously, astronaut, Air Force colonel, scientist. You wear a lot of hats. What inspired you initially to enter the space agency? NASA?
I think I loved chemistry, loved the lab, but I think I always wanted a little, just something more that involved maybe adventure, or just that my dad was an explorer, a deep sea diver. But until I
Mm.
was, in my early 20s and in college, I didn't, I mean, even from his world in diving, I didn't see anybody that looked like me. I was born in 1960. And so it took going to college, having Dr. Sally Ride, the first American woman astronaut, come
Mm.
and visit MIT. And I just thought, wow, maybe I could try to have that job. And I'm hoping this film does that. It shows us being very human. So I'm hoping that more and more people realize that, a lot more people are going, and, we will be going to Mars. We will be going back to the moon, learning what we can learn there and going on to Mars. And that could be, that could be them, could be our kids, grandkids.
The next generation, of course, and you're obviously an inspiration not just to young people, but to females in general, and that is fantastic. Do you have any nuggets of wisdom, any pieces of advice for the next generation of astronauts?
I think realizing that, not many people, it's going to be true for a while, and it's true right now, even though more and more people are going, it's still a small number. And the person that you bring to space, yourself, what's inside you, it's important. What's inside Ito, from his explorations is important, and it's made this movie. And the fact that I'm somebody that um, really believes so much in storytelling, I think is something that I bring. And so I'm sympathetic to storytellers, and I try to help them, and I try to help them find, the materials that they need, and understand enough about our world to make the films that can help people understand it. So whatever is special inside of you, you need to realize that, that is the thing, that is the golden nugget that you bring, is yourself.
And this is a little bit of a left field question, but have you ever considered running for office? Because you're very inspirational. You're great.
Um, there's a lot to be done, and maybe that'll be in my path someday. Right now
Okay.
I'm actually working on a book that's coming out this summer, because I feel like the immediate thing I can do is really try to ensure that more people are ready to do their missions, whether it's become scientists, understand, or be able to learn and listen to science. Whatever their path is, I just want them to feel welcome. And it's still a pretty traditional place out there, where people who are a little different get discouraged a little too early on, and we lose them. And they're so important to us solving the challenges we have here on Earth.
So we have a few minutes left. I just wanted Ito and Cady, questions for both of you. What are some of your favorite movies that are about space and space travel? Ito.
Ooh, I think my favorite, it's a little, but let's be honest, like all really great space movies do not end well. They're not,
What?
they're not, well, not actually, not all of them, not all of them. I guess Gravity kind of is a mixed experience. So Gravity would be one of them. Gravity is
Okay.
wonderful. I think my favorite one is has to be Solaris, the original one. I mean, I think the remake
Okay.
is pretty good too, but the Tarkovsky's Solaris is great. And I mean, all the great space movies that, you know, Solaris, 2001, Alien, Aliens, Moon, Gravity, they're all playing with something very similar, I guess, to what we did in the documentary, which is, you know, what is that human experience in space? What is that experience of isolation? What do you bring with you? What happens when those sort of all the ghosts and the demons and your loved ones and everybody sort of like that you embody that come with you, whether they're physically there or not, what happens when you meet them in space? And where is that kind of very gentle line between what's in my imagination and what's actually happening in front of me? So they do all deal with a little bit of madness or a lot of madness. But yeah, I think that's what they all have in common. And Solaris to me probably stands out.
I like it. I like your list, sir. Very good. Very good. Katie, how about you? Favorite space movie?
Well, I'm like practical. I want them to do some good, so to speak, and I'm pretty forgiving on the technical end. I mean, I just kind of let it go. Like if they do, I love Gravity, partly because my little brother met Sandra Bullock's brother-in-law while I was up on the space station, and
Cool.
our crew got to answer some of the questions that she had about what it was like to live up there and to move up there, and it was really fun for us to be part of that with great morale kind of thing. And in that movie, I mean, there's a lot
Hmm.
of crimes of physics, but I think it shows people what it looks like to look back at the earth and realize how connected everyone is, but also what it feels like to have that view. And it's one of the things that I, feel like a little guilty about that I can't share with people. But my other favorite is The Martian,
Oh yeah.
except, I mean, people should choose with care, okay? Because I would love that movie wholeheartedly, and I do like Andy Weir a lot. But if the main character was a woman, we still need those things. And
Yeah.
and to show you, I think, how much of a influence it can be is that our astronaut applications, like every few years, NASA picks new astronauts, a couple thousand people back in 1992 when I applied, blah, 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 up to the early 2000s, 6,000 people. The Martian movie came out and 18,000 people applied, like from six. I
Hmm.
mean, it's
Wow.
huge, right?
Wow.
And I think it's because it said to people, hey, they really might be going. And if you think you should be a part of that, you should put your hand up. And so there is a power in storytelling. And so I really like that, The Martian really used that to get everybody excited. I'd like to be a little more strategic about it. And I also love the movie Hidden Figures because,
Oh yeah. Oh
it's,
yes.
I make it
So good.
required watching, besides The
Yes.
Longest Goodbye.
So great choices. Great choices, Katie and Ito. As for me, I'd say Apollo 13 is pretty high up there on my list. And I mean, I'm assuming it's authentic, Katie, the way they represented NASA and
I
the whole
thought
process
so.
there.
It came
Hmm.
out right before my first flight, and my mom would always ask me if she should go to the theater or get something at the Blockbuster, right? And on VHS, and that movie came out. I wanted to go home and study, okay, more before the mission, and I was like, Mom, you should probably just, I mean, it's, wait till it comes out on VHS. You don't have to see it now.
Cady, as a seasoned astronaut and Ito just being immersed in the space environment and NASA, what are your thoughts on existence of alien life?
Well, it's hard to think that we're the only ones, that are out here. I mean, I just don't see any logical reasons that we're the only ones. And sure enough, up there on the space station, I woke up one morning to banging on the roof, and this process took like I don't know how many seconds where I just thought not supposed to be happening, banging on the roof of the space station. And then I realized that, oh, the shuttle crew is up here and, they're already out there doing spacewalks. And I forgot they're starting early today. And so it did give me a moment like, is this really how we're going to be contacted? Know? But no, I've never seen any evidence, but I don't know. I think it's kind of ignorant to think that we're alone.
Yeah,
Ito.
I mean, with zero evidence to show for it, I am really I feel the same way. I mean, and I'm hopeful that I will be witnessing some kind of contact like that at some point. Hopefully not banging on my roof, maybe more of a frontal kind of, but yeah, I'd love that. have no real proof for it, but
Well, and if we find out that they send the storytellers, right, and we did not, we're gonna be so mad, right? Actually, I mean, I do think your film represents, telling the importance of telling stories, and NASA embracing that, giving you permission to make the film, is saying we're happy to have you help us tell our stories. And I don't think they could have told this story. So thanks.
That's really cool. And thank you. And I couldn't tell this story without you. And hopefully when the aliens come, maybe this would be one of the first documentaries they give them to watch, as a kind of like, here's the civilization you're about to meet.
I like it. Or maybe they already watched it on the way.
That was great. Thank you.
So, guys, we're about out of time. Cady, I want to thank you so much for everything you've given the country and the world. This is a true honor for me, for meeting a former astronaut. This was really surreal. And Ido, I want to thank you for bringing this story to life. I just want to mention real quick, Space, The Longest Goodbye debuts on PBS's Independent Lens on Monday, May 6th at 10 p.m. Eastern. After the film will be available to stream on the PBS app and also accessible via PBS's flagship YouTube channel. So, Cady and Ido, thank you again. This was amazing. Thank you so much for everything you've given us. I'm Randy Unger. This has been Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. We'll see you next time. Take care.